Hi, this is Dr. Ray Nannis with Optimum Wellness Solutions. Today we are going to be starting a really exciting adventure. We're going to be moving through what I consider the owner's manual for the human body. This is an acronym and I have misspelled it. I tell everybody right up front that I am dyslexic, which gives me the right to misspell words. I don't know why that works, but I've just declared it to be true. And this is going to be the OWNN, there's your misspelling, ERS, owners, plus PLUSG, manual for the human body. Each one of those letters is going to be an acronym for something, and we're going to be diving into those over the course of the next several components of the Wellness University. So what I'd like to do today is we want to start with O. We want to start with O. The O stands for oxygen. The interesting thing is this. You can literally live days without food, or weeks without food, days without water, but you can only make it minutes without oxygen. So that makes it very, very important. If you go more than about 4 minutes without oxygen, and definitely more than 10, you'll at least have some brain damage to not possibly being dead. Oxygen is vital. Now, why is oxygen vital? It's important because what happens is oxygen comes into the body, it comes into the lungs bring it to the blood through the hemoglobin picks it up, delivers it to the cells, and the cells use oxygen to produce energy. Your cells can make energy without oxygen, but it doesn't make very much. It requires oxygen to make energy through what's called the Krebs cycle or the glucose cycle. The Krebs cycle produces what's called adenosine triphosphate, or ATP. ATP is the juice, the energy, the gas that our cells run on. Without ATP, you actually have no energy. Your cells have no energy. And I'm not talking feeling lethargic, I'm talking dead. The cells that use the most energy, the cells that require the most consistent influx of energy, are the cells of our brain. Our brain is the number one, the nervous system, brain and nervous system are the number one utilizing source of adenosine triphosphate. It uses about half of the energy that our body creates. Each cell has the ability to create energy, and it requires oxygen to do it. So oxygen is vital. Now we need clean, fresh oxygen on a regular basis. So if we get the idea, oxygen is very important. And I'd like to dive into 2 stories. The first story is this. It's about how you breathe. And I want to ask you, the question about how are you supposed to breathe? Like right this moment, take a moment and I want you just to take a deep breath. Did you do it? I mean, seriously, are you playing? Take a deep breath. What I find is the vast majority of people, when I do that, they take their shoulders and they lift them up. And they take a deep breath in and they look something like this. Does this look healthy and relaxed? This is stressed out. Got it? So if you lifted your shoulders, I want you to be thinking about these next 2 stories. The first story is a story about one of the most amazing days of my life. The date is September 18th, 2012. Now you may have heard that date before because September 18th is also the birth of chiropractic. But it was also the birth of Shelby, my firstborn. We had the most amazing experience at birth. It was an at-home birth. We're in a living room. My wife at the time was in a big bathtub thing, and we had a water at-home birth. The lights were low, the sound was calm. There was me, a midwife, and a doula, and I think my mother was there, just a few people, not a lot of people in the room. The point of the matter becomes it was an amazing process. I had the privilege, probably one of the coolest things that's happened in my life, to be able to catch my newborn baby. So we had a water birth, and I'm on my knees next to this bathtub, and Shelby is getting ready to be born, and the midwife looks at me and says, "You're going to be the first person that touches her, you're going to catch her, and you're going to hold her underwater." And I'm like, "What do you mean?" She says she's been breathing through a tube for the last 9 months. A few more seconds is not going to matter. When she opens her eyes, then you gently lift her up. And I was like, okay, I get that. So Shelby is born. I hold her, and the longest, probably felt like 3 hours, but it was probably about 10 seconds. Happens in my life. And Shelby opens her eyes, and then I lift her up. And the first thing she does is she opens her arms, and her chest just expands. She drops her shoulders. She takes a deep breath, barely even cries. She's born. Everything's great. It's a perfect birth. And that's just amazing. It's literally one of the coolest things that happened. And then I also, don't want to leave this out, had the privilege to have the exact same thing happen on December 30th, 2013 with Sierra. The experience is amazing. I also want to talk about a date a little bit earlier. It was December 28th, a couple of days after Christmas, on 2010. I haven't told the story for a little while. My grandmother was 89 years old. She was not the world's most healthy person. She was about 4'10" and almost that big around. Her idea of exercise was taking a fork and putting it up to her mouth. I don't think she'd ever exercised. She made it to 89 years old. One of her goals was to pass in her room, in her bedroom. She didn't want to be in a hospital with all the tubes and wires and bells and whistles or anything like that. On Christmas Day, she was with us. We woke up Christmas morning and she was with us. By about midday, she started talking to people that weren't in the room. By that night, we had full-time hospice at her house. And then just a couple of days later, I was at her home, and the nurses are saying it's really, really close, and they wanted to up her medication. And I said, let me go in, and I adjusted her. And about 10 minutes later, I see her do this. And that was it. But it was all right from the shoulders. The question that I'm going to ask you is this. How do you think you're supposed to breathe? Do you think you're supposed to breathe from that first breath, or do you think you're supposed to breathe like your last breath? When you breathe and we expand the belly and expand the chest, we put the body into the parasympathetic rest, digest, and heal. When you breathe exclusively from the chest, we're putting the body into the sympathetic fight and flight or struggle. It was an amazing birth. It actually was an amazing passing. And I love my grandmother so much. She was one of the most important people in my life. And I miss her dearly every day. But it was a pleasure to be in the room with her. And I know that she left in peace because one of the last things she experienced was a chiropractic adjustment. This has been Dr. Ray Nannis, the Wellness Wizard, and I look forward to walking down the path of health and life with you.